Hey everyone, Kennedy Morgan here, and I'm the West Hollywood Medium. So I wanted to share with you the most common question that I'm asked, especially after reading, which is, how did I first know that I was communicating with those who crossed over, or that I was a medium? And first of all, I always tell people, in growing up, I never even thought that I would be doing this type of work, because I come from such a skeptical perspective, and I'm very logic-minded. The journey to realizing that I was a medium has been quite an experience. But in looking back in my childhood, I see now that there have been moments, many moments, where I was connecting with spirit, or the spirit was connecting with me. I just didn't know what it was. I just always thought it was a heightened sense of intuition, or a knowingness, or whatever it may be. And I always thought that people had this, like everybody had this, because you share stories with your friends and your family about little coincidences that happened to you, or how you just knew to stop before at a four-way intersection just right before a car passes or runs the red light or something like that. Because of this, I just thought that it was a normal thing. Like, everybody had this. Everybody has intuition, which I do believe. I just kind of shrugged it off. It wasn't until maybe my 30s, when I was going through some issues, and I went to a hypnotherapist to kind of sort of help me work through those issues in my life in a much more faster way, I guess. I was trying to live for the easy way out. And in that hypnotherapy session, I felt like there's this energy that was there with me. I didn't know what it was at the time, because I just thought, maybe this is part of the session, or this is part of the journey in going under and being hypnotized. I didn't know. So I didn't really put much weight on it, and I never really told the hypnotherapist about it. It wasn't until I went to lunch that day with my partner, and we were ordering our food, and all of a sudden I had this image in my mind of the tragic death of this girl. And I thought, that's weird, where did this come from? So I just shrugged it aside, because you know how sometimes we have weird thoughts that we just kind of shrug aside. But it came back, and then I shrugged it out again, and then it came back, and every time it came back even stronger, and the vision was much more clear. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's happening? I started to panic and get anxiety, because I was like, did something happen in the hypnotherapy session? Because I've never had this before. I even went to the point of thinking maybe I was possessed, or someone possessed my mind, and it really freaked me out, to the point where I went to a therapist because I thought I was going crazy. And the therapist ended up diagnosing me with something that's called morbid obsessive thoughts, where you have these morbid thoughts over and over and over and over again in your head. And the morbid obsessive thoughts is a sign of a deep depression. But then I thought to myself, but I'm not depressed. I'm not depressed. There's nothing to be depressed about. I just wanted to work through some issues that I had in my life. So, needless to say, I just kind of sort of accepted her diagnosis. For a year and a half straight, I worked on focusing on getting those thoughts out of my head. And it was the same thought over and over and over again. So it wasn't different thoughts, it was just the same thoughts over and over and over again. And finally, I was able to kind of sort of diminish the thoughts and get them out of my head, but it took a long time. I didn't know what it was at the time. So, cut to 8 years later, and I was in Mauritius on a vacation with a friend of mine, and we were going to dinner to a restaurant and taking a taxi from the hotel to the restaurant. And in the taxi cab, we were laughing, having fun, and all of a sudden I had this strange compulsion and strange thought to ask the taxi driver about his daughter. And I was like, this is weird. So I pushed the thought aside, and then it came back, and I thought, this is weird. It's happening to me again. Oh my God. And I started panicking, I started getting anxiety, and the thought came back, and I pushed it aside, and it came back even stronger, and the compulsion was really, really strong. I was like, okay, what's going on here? What's happening? So finally, I just gave in, and I just asked the taxi driver about his daughter. I said, I know this sounds really, really, really weird, but you have a daughter who's 2 years old. And the minute he said yes, all this information started coming through. It was very, very fast, and he validated all the information that was coming through. Luckily, we got to the restaurant. I apologized for being intrusive, gave him his fare, and then closed the door and left. And was completely in shock. It was complete and total shock. Like, I didn't know what was happening. I'm pretty sure my friend thought, what the heck is going on? So, from that point on, I knew that something was happening to me. Like, this was a weird moment, and that set me on the journey to figuring out, what happened to me, why, and what's going on. I came back from that vacation. It was almost like the floodgate had opened, and everywhere I went, I sensed and saw and knew that spirit was around, and I began to read books. I went and watched a lot of YouTube videos. I watched people like Teresa Caputo, John Edwards, Lisa Williams, all the top celebrity mediums, and in learning about their story, I realized that there was a lot of similarities with the things that I was receiving, and so I delved into it even more. I read books, and then I started testing my abilities. Like, when I was around somebody and I had that compulsion or had that kind of sort of anxious feeling, it was a sign for me that spirit was around. So the minute I surrendered myself to that compulsion or that feeling, then I would receive information about that particular person or about the person that's trying to reach them from the other side. And so I tested it out. And sure enough, the things that were coming out and the things that were being told to me or delivered to me made sense to the other person, and I was able to validate information. And I did it so much that I realized that this is not a coincidence. Like, you can't be that correct every single time, even if you were just guessing. So, and that's my logic mind thinking. So I started researching even more and started watching more YouTube videos and started talking to people and getting involved in with meetup groups that were meditation meetup groups and spiritual meetup groups. And to this day, I'm still learning. I'm taking classes and whatnot, but my gift has only strengthened even more, and to the point now where instead of spirit coming to me, I can now actually connect to spirit. Not necessarily on demand, but if there's someone who's coming to me to look for healing or comfort or guidance because their loved one has passed, then I'm able to connect to the loved one. So, this work is amazing, and I wouldn't do it if it wasn't healing for the person that I'm reading, if it didn't bring comfort or guidance or some level of feeling better about themselves or better about their lives. That's why I do this, because I always tell people that's my high, because after you connect with spirit, there is such an incredible high that you go for the rest of your day on cloud 9, basically. So that's how I knew I was a medium and my journey in that process. I'd like to hear some of your stories too, so comment below and share your stories. And if you're thinking you're a psychic or a medium, share your story as well, and situations that happened to you, weird and paranormal situations that happened. And be sure to like my page and subscribe. Take good care. Bye, guys.